Okay, I just want to make a video, just kind of pointing out how weird it is, the different random things that send you in different directions. So, um, something that I never liked about MAME was that it doesn't give you good names for your devices. So for example, if I go in here into the input settings and then I go into input devices, you'll notice that it just basically tells you you got human interface devices, or you have an X input device, or whatever it happens to be, right? Um, so that's really shitty. Um, it doesn't really tell you anything. You don't even know what you have. Um, so in any case, in MAME, I changed that so that querying the driver, we can actually tell you what you have. So not only does the raw input support give you global inputs, probably give you lower latency, but it also can give you the actual names of all your devices. And another nice thing that I added in there, so you'll notice that if you go back in the video and look at the keyboard section on vanilla MAME, you'll notice that it brought in more keyboards than mine is. And the thing is, there are duplicate, keyboards created that basically do nothing. Like for example, Logitech mice will actually create a duplicate keyboard device that does absolutely nothing. And so the other nice change I made is that I filter out the worthless duplicates. Of course, MAME's current maintainer is a professional skin flute player, and so basically vanilla builds of MAME are going to be useless as long as he's coordinating the project. You're basically not going to be able to get nice features like this as long as that cocksucker is still in there. So, I mean, to a certain extent, vanilla builds of MAME are useless because if you have a CRT, you're using Groovy MAME, so you're not using a vanilla build of MAME. If you're heterosexual and you don't want to look at nag screens, you're not using the vanilla build of MAME. If you have a surround sound setup, you're either using my builds or you're dumb. Like basically. Oh, and I mean, and even like, if you're not interested in any of those things, and you're part of the silent majority that's using an ancient computer, and or like a Raspberry Pi or something, you're not using a modern version of MAME. So I mean, that is kind of the comical thing, is that there's basically no point in MAME even doing vanilla builds anymore because once again their maintainer is a cocksucker. But in any case, to go back to like the point of this video, so when I added this, I noticed that my Microsoft keyboard there actually has a registered mark in its name, and it made me realize something, that in Final Fight, I actually didn't have a character set up for the registered mark, and that became kind of problematic because it opened up a whole can of worms for me. So basically, there is a registered mark graphic in Final Fight, and that registered mark, shows up during the intro. After the Capcom logo, and see there. But so here's the interesting thing though. So I wanted the registered mark, but it just so happens that the registered mark is actually 16 pixels wide. However, there are scenarios where you're going to want to use the registered mark with fonts that typically have characters that are only 8 pixels wide. And so Final Fight has always been like a monospace font game, meaning that all of the characters are the same width. I probably should have brought up, I don't know why I did the Japanese one. I probably should have done the English one. But Yeah, yeah. See, like here for example, I mean, you can see that because it's monospace, you have a shitload of space between like the I character and other characters, and like I mean, basically any kind of narrow character has a ton of dead space around it because it's monospace. So lowercase l's, t's, eyes, and and so on. They're all periods, punctuation. Any character that's actually narrow is going to have a ton of space around it. Okay, so basically, long story short, is I went in and I actually redid the font layout system for Final Fight to make it support variable width font characters. And the funny thing is basically this all just happened because I arbitrarily wanted to say like, well, for the registered mark, I want to be able to just say, okay, well, this one just happens to be 16 characters, even though all the other characters for this font are 8, or less. So, if I go in here now, I mean, even though, well, I can go to the intro, but you can see though, for example, how like, see how this idle character, see how, because now it isn't monospace, there isn't dead space on the L, between like the L and the E, and between the I and the D, and so on. And see, basically it's just not monospace anymore. Everything is just basically as wide as it needs to be. And then, you can see like how if I do the keyboard, see how it can actually bring in the registered mark, and you notice too how any character that happens to be more narrow, it's actually laid out a lot nicer. Like the I in Microsoft, the I in configure, the L in natural. I mean, basically, like I said, it's not monospace anymore. So I mean, it's a fairly minor change, I guess, but I mean, it does look nicer though. I mean, if I let the intro come up here, and it's even like the I in configure, here, it doesn't have to take up like a full 8 characters and have a bunch of dead space in it. The I in quit, so it's nice, it's and you can see how like the L's and the I's all look really nice. The I in is doesn't take up a bunch of extra space. Yeah, so I mean, even though it's like a total overkill, it's just, but like I said, it's just funny how one thing leads to another, like basically adding the real names of devices to MAME led me to redo the font layout system in Final Fight. It's just funny, how one thing leads to another. But I think this does look actually really nice. The font's not being monospace anymore. And the other thing too is it gives me a lot more flexibility when it comes to the non-English languages, because if you have characters that just require more space, you can just do it. You're not just limited to one size for every character for each font. So. Yeah, so I don't know. It's a nice change. Like it's very subtle, but you see even like the dots, the ellipses, the periods. See how they don't have to take up like a bunch of space. The nice thing too is it like lower resolutions. Even like 1:1 aspect ratio for like a square monitor. This actually makes the fonts take up less space because you just don't have as much dead space. So that's nice too. So yeah, so I think overall, it was worth doing. I mean, basically, I upgraded every other aspect of the game. So why not the fucking fonts, right? Why not improve every single goddamn aspect of the game, right? Yep. So in any case, like that's going to be in the next version too, just adding to this insane monster list of changes that I have coming. I mean, this next release, this is like, Final Fight 2.0. I mean, there have been so many things changed. Yes, even like the apostrophe, in the title there, guy's profile. I mean, it doesn't have to like waste all that space anymore because it doesn't have to be monospace. It's actually pretty nice. Oh yeah, I probably should you put up a new MAME build soon too, so you can actually see the real names of your input devices.